Hello my dear students, welcome back to your channel. Hope you all are doing good. Today I am going to start one short revision of class 11 physics of chapter 12, that is thermodynamics. In this chapter, different topics to be covered are: first is what is thermal equilibrium, then Zeroth law of thermodynamics, after that what is heat, work and internal energy, what is the relation between these three, then first law of thermodynamics, after that different thermodynamic process like isothermal process, adiabatic process. These two are very important. Other processes are like isochoric process, isobaric process. Then after that second law of thermodynamics, and last reversible and irreversible process. After this there is one more topic, that is heat engine and refrigerator, which is not in your syllabus for this year. So I will cover all these topics one by one. Right? First of all, what does it mean? Thermodynamics. Thermo means what? Thermo means heat and dynamics means motion, right? So thermodynamics is a branch of science which deals with the concept of heat and temperature and interconversion of this heat into other forms of energy, how it transfers from one body to another body. So to understand this chapter, you must keep in mind one diagram. Suppose there is a cylinder and in this cylinder gas is filled, right? And there is a movable piston at the top of the cylinder. Now, if you compress this gas or expand this gas, what happens? The temperature, pressure and volume of the whole gas changes. So, these temperature, pressure and volume are microscopic variables. So, in this thermodynamics is nothing but it is study of pressure, volume, temperature. It means it is with the study of microscopic variables. It deals with bulk system, and in this system how pressure and volume and temperature of the whole gas changes, right? Next chapter to this thermodynamics is kinetic theory of gases, KTG. What is difference between this thermodynamics and kinetic theory of gases? In thermodynamics, we deal with the whole system, how temperature, pressure, volume of the gas changes. But in this kinetic theory of gases, it deals with microscopic variables. Microscopic variables. It means if you consider one gas molecules, right? One molecule of the gas. Now, what is the velocity of these gas molecules? What is the kinetic energy of that molecules? In this kinetic theory of gases, study about the microscopic variables. It means at microscopic level, molecular level, right? This is the difference between thermodynamics and kinetic theory of gases. So, let us start first with this chapter thermodynamics, and this one first I will discuss what is thermal equilibrium, right? So, you know what is thermodynamics? It is branch of science that deals with concepts of heat and temperature, interconversion of heat into other forms of energy. It is a macroscopic science. It deals with bulk system and study of pressure, volume and temperature of the system. Now, next term is what is thermodynamic system. Suppose there is a cylinder, right? Here movable piston is attached and gas is filled in this cylinder. So this cylinder is a system, right? So what is system? It is assembly of very large number of particles having certain pressure, volume and temperature. This gas has certain pressure, volume and temperature. If you with the help of this movable piston, you compress the gas, you expand the gas, then pressure, volume, temperature of the system changes. So this cylinder is a thermodynamic system, and everything around this system is what? Surrounding. Everything outside this system is surrounding. Now, next is thermodynamic variable. What is this? If you compress this gas or expand the gas, what happens? Pressure, volume, temperature changes. This pressure, volume, temperature are thermodynamic variables which helps to study behavior of thermodynamic system. It has to study this thermodynamic system. After this, next is equation of state. What is this? This is relation between pressure, volume and temperature of this thermodynamic system. This is equation of state. You know, for ideal gas, equation of state is what? PV equal to nRT. After this, there is an important topic, that is thermal equilibrium. What is this? Suppose there are two bodies, A and B. And suppose the temperature of A body is T1 and body B has temperature T2 and T1 is greater than T2. Now if you these two bodies comes in contact with each other, what happens? This A body comes in contact with B body. Then what happens? Heat flows from this, because A has higher temperature, heat flows from this A body to B body until both have same temperature, and after some time temperature of one becomes equal to temperature of two. It means these two bodies are said to be thermal equilibrium. What is this? If the two systems have same temperature, it means there is no exchange, no more exchange of heat. No more exchange of heat. Then the system are said to be in thermal equilibrium. For example, hot coffee and tea. If you kept this hot coffee and tea in a cup, after some time it becomes cold due to transfer of heat from this coffee to the surrounding, right? And if you kept this hot coffee or tea in a flask, it remains hot. So this is about thermal equilibrium. Please take a screenshot of this one, then move to the next topic. Now, thermodynamic equilibrium. What is this? There are three equilibrium in a system. First one is mechanical equilibrium, then chemical equilibrium, then thermal equilibrium. What is this mechanical equilibrium? If net force acting on the system is zero, then that system is said to be in mechanical equilibrium. What is chemical equilibrium? If there is no chemical reaction takes place in the gas, then the system is said to be chemical equilibrium. If it means no chemical reaction takes place, means they are non-reactive gases, right? Then thermal equilibrium, if the body are at the same temperature. If all these three equilibrium takes place in a system simultaneously, then the body is said to be in thermodynamic equilibrium. What is this thermodynamic? If system has these three equilibrium simultaneously at the same time, then it is said to be in thermodynamic equilibrium. After this, next important topic is zeroth law of thermodynamics. Before this, you must know these two terms: types of wall, diathermic wall and adiabatic wall. What is this diathermic wall? Those walls that allow heat or energy flow. Suppose there are two systems A and B, and if there is a flow or transfer of heat from one system to another system, then these type of walls are called diathermic wall. What is adiabatic wall? Those walls that does not allow heat or energy flow. If there are two systems and there is an insulating wall between these two systems, it means no heat or energy flow takes place from this first system to second system. It means temperature of the two systems remains constant. Temperature remains constant. If the wall is adiabatic, no heat transfer takes place between the two systems. This type of walls are insulating walls, and these diathermic walls are conducting walls, so that heat flows from one system to another system until thermal equilibrium takes place, right? Now come to zeroth law of thermodynamics. What is this? To understand this law, consider there are three systems A, B and C. The temperature of the three systems are TA, TB and TC. Suppose A and B are separated by adiabatic walls, and A and C and also B and C are separated by diathermic wall. This is diathermic wall. Diathermic walls are those walls which allow heat or energy to flow. And this A and B are separated by adiabatic wall. Those walls which does not allow heat or energy to flow. Now what happens? This A and B are at temperature TA and TB, and there is heat exchange takes place between A and C and also between B and C. Now, heat exchange takes place between A and C and B and C until it reaches thermal equilibrium. It means temperature of this A system becomes equal to temperature of C system. TA becomes TC and this TB equal to TC. If TA equal to TC and TB equal to TC, then TA must be equal to TB. This is zeroth law of thermodynamics. What is this law? It states that if two bodies, suppose A and B, are separately thermal equilibrium with a third body C. These A and A body are in thermal equilibrium with third body C. It means TA equal to TC and TB equal to TC. Then A and B are also in thermal equilibrium with each other. Then TA equal to TB. Both A and B are in thermal equilibrium with each other. This is zeroth law of thermodynamics, and it gives an idea about a new physical quantity that is called temperature. According to this law, what is temperature? Temperature is that quantity which gives rise to direction of flow of it, in which direction heat flows. It is that quantity which determines whether the system is in thermal equilibrium or not. So, with the help of this zeroth law of thermodynamics, a new fundamental quantity comes, that is temperature, and it is very, very important. Why it is called zeroth law of thermodynamics? Before this law, first and second law comes, but it gives rise to a concept of new physical quantity that is called temperature. That's why this is called zeroth law of thermodynamics. So please take a screenshot of this one. Our next topic is heat, internal energy and work. First, what do you mean by internal energy of a gas? You know, total energy of any body is sum of kinetic energy, potential energy and internal energy. So what is that internal energy? Internal energy, it is denoted by capital U, and it is sum of molecular kinetic energy plus molecular potential energy. Now what is this molecular kinetic energy or kinetic energy of a molecule? You know, kinetic energy is due to motion of the molecules, it means due to velocity. So kinetic energy of a molecule is due to velocity, and when you increase the temperature, velocity increases, hence kinetic energy also increases. It means kinetic energy is a function of temperature. It's a very important point. Kinetic energy is a function of temperature. This is about kinetic energy. Next is potential energy of molecules. And you know, potential energy is due to intermolecular force of attraction between the molecules, right? And you know, if you increase the volume is number density increases, large number of molecules. So molecular force of attraction also increases. So when you increase the volume, molecular force of attraction increases, and greater the molecular force of attraction between molecules, greater is the potential energy. It means potential energy is a function of volume. So hope it's clear to all of you. What do you mean by kinetic energy? On which factors kinetic energy depends? It is dependent on temperature. In greater the temperature, greater is the kinetic energy, and this potential energy is a function of volume. Greater the volume, greater is the potential energy. Now, first, what about internal energy in case of ideal gas? You know, ideal gas means what? There is no molecular force of attraction between the molecules, and hence, if there is no molecular force of attraction, it means there is no potential energy. So, in case of ideal gas, internal energy only just sum of different kinetic energy, rotational kinetic energy, translational kinetic energy, linear translational. So this, in case of ideal gas, internal is just only kinetic energy, and you know kinetic energy is a function of temperature. So internal energy in case of ideal gas is also a function of temperature only. Now for real gas. Real gas, there is intermolecular force of attraction between the molecules, hence it has some potential energy. So total internal energy is sum of molecular kinetic energy and potential energy. Here, hope it's clear to all of you. In whole chapter, I will only consider real gas. Actually, it is an imaginary gas. No gas is real, 100% real, but it's just imaginary, right? Imagination is there. And for ideal gas, total internal energy is nothing but only it is due to kinetic energy. So kinetic energy is a function of temperature. Internal energy is a function of temperature. You must remember this point. This point is very, very, very important throughout the chapter, right? And both this internal energy, actually it is macroscopic state variable. This point is also very important. Macroscopic variables are pressure, volume, temperature and mass, and this internal depends on pressure, volume, temperature and mass of the gas. It is path independent. It does not depend on path. Now after this internal energy, it is denoted by capital U, heat and work. What is difference between heat and work? Heat is actually a mode of energy transfer due to temperature difference between system and surroundings. If there is a temperature difference between the two systems or system and surrounding, then heat energy flows from hotter body to colder body or higher temperature to lower temperature, right? So heat is a mode of energy transfer due to temperature difference, right? But work is a mode of energy transfer. It is not due to temperature difference. It does not involve temperature. For example, moving the piston. Suppose there is a cylinder. Suppose there is a cylinder filled with gas and movable piston attached. Suppose you move the piston, either you compress the piston or expand the piston. What happens? Work is done by the system or on the system. So work does not involve temperature difference, right? It is a mechanical thing. Both this heat and work are path dependent. It does not depends on state. Here internal energy is state variable. It is path independent. It does not depends on path. But heat and work both are path dependent. They does not depend on states. So these are about heat, internal energy and work. Hope it's clear to all of you. Now after this, next topic is sign convention for heat, work and internal energy. Please take a screenshot of this one first. Now sign convention. First is internal energy. If there is increasing internal energy of the system, then you take positive sign. If there is decreasing internal energy, then you take negative sign. In the same way, work done by the system. Suppose there is cylinder filled with gas and movable piston is attached at the upper end. Now what happens if the volume of this gas increases? If you supply some heat, then this gas expands, expansion takes place, and due to this expansion this piston moves in upward direction and work is done by the system. So work done by the system, it means during expansion you take positive sign, and work done on the system, if the piston moves in downward direction, then this is the compression takes place. In that case, work is done on the system. It is taken as negative sign. In chemistry, it is opposite. Work done by the system is negative and work done on the system is positive. But in physics, work done by the system. Here we are considering this piston, and work, if this piston moves, it means work done by the system. So in this case, it is positive and work done on the system negative. Then heat given to the system, supply some heat to the system, it is taken as positive, and heat given by the system is negative. So you must remember this sign convention. It's very helpful when you solve numerical, right? Next one is indicator diagram. You know thermodynamic variables, pressure, volume and temperature, and graph between any two thermodynamic variable is called indicator diagram. For example, PV diagram, graph between pressure and volume. Suppose this side is pressure, this side is volume, and here graph is like this one. In this case, graph is like this one. This is starting point and this one is final position. Here this is initial position and this one is final position. So in this case, it's clear that if graph is drawn like this one, so volume increases from this V1 to V2. And volume increases means expansion takes place. And expansion takes place means work done by the system. It is taken as positive. So this is the case of expansion, work done by the gas. In this case, work done is positive. In this one, starting point is this one, and from here to this final position, volume decreases from V1 to V2. Volume decreases means compression takes place, and in this case, work done on the gas, it is taken as negative sign. So you must remember these points, that work done by the gas, it means expansion, it is taken as positive. Work done on the gas, it means compression takes place, it is taken as negative sign. Graphically, this area under this curve, it gives total work done. The area under this PV diagram gives total work done by the system or on the system. So this area under PV diagram is work done by the system or on the system. You can write work done is equal to area under PV curve, and it is equal to P integration of P dV from V1 to V2, right? Now here this is clockwise. Clockwise means when expansion takes place, curve is clockwise. So during expansion, area under PV curve is in clockwise direction right now, and it is taken as positive. And during this compression, this one is anti-clockwise. So during compression, area under PV diagram is in anti-clockwise direction, and it is so the work is taken as negative. It means you must remember these points also. During clockwise, area under the curve is in clockwise direction, the work is positive. Area under the work done is in anti-clockwise direction, so you take work done as negative sign. You must remember these points. Please take a screenshot of this one. Now, next is work done during expansion and compression. Theoretically, I am going to derive what is the formula for work done during expansion and compression. Graphically, we already found that in case of PV diagram, work done is nothing but total area under the PV curve, and it is given by integration of V1 to V2 PdV. Now, what is the formula for work done during expansion? Suppose gas is contained in this cylinder, and this gas exerts pressure. There is a movable piston attached at the upper part of this cylinder. Now what happens? This gas exerts pressure. Due to this, it exerts force on this movable piston. So force exerted by gas on the piston is what? Force is what? Pressure into area. A is area of cross section of this cylinder. Now gas expands and it pushes the piston through some distance, suppose this is a distance, and the piston moves in upward direction. So if it moves through a distance dx, then work done by the piston is how much? Gas is how much? Small work done is given by force into displacement. Force is P into A. So PA into dx, and A area into this displacement is with small change in volume. Initial volume is V1, and due to this pressure, the gas exerts force, right, and volume increases from V1 to V2. So this dV is change in volume. Total work done, this is small work done. Total work done by the gas is integration of this small work done dW to V1 to V2. So this dW is PdV. This is total work done by the gas during expansion. Here volume increases from V1 to V2. So this is case of expansion. You can also write W equal to P delta V, and here change in volume is what? V2 minus V1 is, V2 is greater than V1, volume increases. So change in volume is positive. So work done is also positive. If it is a case of compression, work done during compression, formula is same, W equal to P delta V, but here delta V is V2 minus V1 and it is negative. Why it is negative? Because V2 is less than V1. Volume decreases in case of compression, so work done is also negative because change in volume is negative. So this is the formula for work done during expansion and compression. After this, next important topic is first law of thermodynamics. What is this first law? Suppose there is a cylinder containing gas, and if you supply some heat to this system, a cylinder containing gas is a system, and if you supply some heat to this system, then that heat is absorbed in two ways. Due to this increase in, if you supply some heat to the system, the temperature of this gas molecules increases, and due to increase in temperature, internal energy of the gas increases. So some part of this heat is utilized in increasing internal energy, and also volume of this gas changes, it increases, right now, and due to increase in volume, expansion case, so work done by the system. So amount of heat supplied to the system is utilized in two ways. One is increasing internal energy of the system, and another is utilizing doing some work done by the system. This is first law of thermodynamics. If some heat is supplied to the system which is capable of doing work, then the quantity of heat absorbed, here del Q is heat given to the system, then the quantity of heat absorbed by the system is equal to sum of increase in internal energy and also work done by the system. Delta Q equal to delta U plus delta W. Delta Q is heat given to the system or heat absorbed by the system. Delta U is increase in internal energy, and delta W is work done by the system. This is first law of thermodynamics, and it is based on conservation of energy. This point is very important. It is based on conservation of energy. Here, due to increase in this heat is given to the system, the temperature of this gas system increases now, and due to increase in temperature, internal energy increases. It means internal energy is a state variable. Due to increase in temperature, its state changes. So internal energy is a function of temperature. So you can say that internal energy is a state variable. It is path independent. It does not depend on path. But work done and heat is path dependent. It is not dependent on state. So work done is path dependent. But work done and heat both are path. But Delta Q minus delta W is delta U, and delta U is path independent. Changing internal energy is path independent. It depends on only state. So this difference is also path independent. So these are about first law of thermodynamics. Hope it's clear to all of you. Please take a screenshot of this one. And we move to the next topic. Next, specific heats of a gas. What is this specific heat? You already studied in chapter 11 in thermal properties of matter. When a gas is heated, suppose this is a container in which gas is kept. When this gas is heated, then what happens is pressure and volume changes with the increase in temperature, right? So the amount of heat required to change the temperature of 1 gram of a substance through 1 degree Celsius, this is called a specific heat of a gas, and it is different in different conditions. So this specific heat of a gas is nothing but amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of gas through 1 degree Celsius, right? It is of two types, a specific heat capacity at constant volume and a specific heat capacity at constant pressure. Definition is same, only condition is applied when one amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of a gas through 1 degree Celsius at constant pressure. This is called a specific capacity at constant pressure. Amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of a substance at constant volume, then that is called a specific capacity at constant volume. In this way you define Cp and Cv. This heat is equal to mc delta T. This C is a specific heat capacity at constant pressure, delta Q by m delta T at constant pressure, and constant volume, delta Q by m delta T at constant volume. In this way you define a specific heat capacity. Now what is this molar specific heat capacity? Molar specific heat, in this one you just here in place of 1 gram, here you take 1 mole. Amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 mole of a substance through 1 degree Celsius, that is called molar specific heat at constant volume. Amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 mole of gas through 1 degree Celsius at constant volume, and in this way you can define this one. Cv equal to, it is represented by small c, specific heat, and molar specific heat capacity is represented by capital C. So at constant volume, Cv is equal to delta Q by delta T at constant volume, and at constant pressure, amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 mole of a substance through 1 degree Celsius, delta Q by delta T at constant pressure. This is the formula for specific capacity at constant pressure. Now, which one is greater? Specific capacity at constant pressure or at constant volume? So here I have written Cp is greater than Cv. Why Cp is greater than Cv? Actually, when a gas is heated at constant volume, what happens from first law of thermodynamics? Delta Q is equal to delta U plus delta W. When a gas is heated at constant volume, there is no change in volume. So no external work done by the gas. Delta W is what? P delta V. No change in volume, it means this one is 0. So at constant volume, all heat supplied is used to increase only internal energy of a gas. This delta Q equal to delta U. Whole amount of heat supplied is used in increasing internal energy of the gas when a gas is heated at constant volume. Now when a gas is heated at constant pressure, what happens? At constant pressure, gas expands, and when gas expands, it performs some external work against that increase in pressure. So here amount of heat supplied is used in increasing, part is used in increasing internal energy of a gas, and a part is used in performing work done against that pressure. So more amount of heat is required when a gas is heated at constant pressure, right? Because at constant pressure it expands, so heat supplied is used to increase internal energy of a gas, and some amount is used to do work against this external pressure. Delta Q is delta U plus delta W. Hence, more amount of heat is required to increase temperature of 1 mole of a gas at constant pressure than at constant volume. At constant volume, only heat is used in increasing internal energy, and at constant pressure, amount of heat supplied is used in increasing internal energy as well as to do some work against that pressure. So more amount of heat is required when a gas is heated at constant pressure than at constant volume, right? That's why Cp is greater than Cv. Please take a screenshot of this one. Now next, a specific heat relation. What is relation between Cp and Cv? and it is also called Mayer's formula. Relation is given by, you know, Cp is greater than Cv, we already discussed this one, and this Cp minus Cv is equal to R. R is called universal gas constant. Now how you prove this one? So suppose, consider 1 mole of an ideal gas. This is a container in which ideal gas is kept, 1 mole of an ideal gas. Now heat this gas to raise its temperature by delta T. Now amount of heat given to this system is utilized in two ways na, by first law of thermodynamics. Some part is utilized in creating internal energy and some part is used in doing work against this expansion. So delta Q is equal to delta U plus delta W. Now at constant volume, you know, at constant volume there is no expansion or contraction na. Change in volume is 0, so work done is also 0. So delta Q equal to delta U for constant volume. Now you know Cv at constant volume is delta Q by delta T at constant volume for 1 mole of an ideal gas. Now in place of delta Q at constant volume, you write delta U. So Cv equal to delta U by delta T at constant volume. You can remove this subscript volume also because this internal energy is a function of temperature only. It is independent of pressure and volume. So you can write this one as delta U by delta T since internal energy only depends on temperature. Next, at constant pressure. This one you can, okay. Next is constant pressure. At constant pressure, by first law of thermodynamics, delta Q is equal to delta U plus delta W. Here delta W is not 0 because it is here volume. At constant pressure, volume expand or contract. So work is done by this expansion or contraction. So delta U plus, you can write delta W is P delta V. Now at constant pressure, Cp is delta Q by delta T at constant pressure for 1 mole of an ideal gas. In place of delta Q, put this one. So this becomes Cp equal to delta U. In place of delta Q, write delta U plus P delta V by delta T at constant pressure. Now you can write this one as delta U, separate these two, plus sign is here. So delta U by delta T at constant pressure plus P delta V by delta T at constant pressure. Now again this internal energy is a function of temperature only. You can remove this subscript P also here. You can write in place of this one delta U by delta T. It is independent of temperature and pressure plus P delta V by delta T at constant pressure. Now using this equation, Cv is also delta U by delta T. So you can write in place of this delta U by delta T Cv. So Cp equal to Cv plus P delta V by delta T at constant pressure, equation number 1. Now for 1 mole of an ideal gas, equation is what? Pv equal to nRT, for 1 mole n is 1. So Pv equal to RT. At constant pressure what happened? At constant pressure volume increases and temperature increases. So both volume and temperature changes at constant pressure. So you can write P delta V equal to R delta T. From here P delta V by delta T equal to R. This is equation number 2. You put this value in equation number 1. In place of P delta V by delta T at constant pressure, this one is equal to R. So in place of this one, you replace it by R. So Cp equal to Cv plus R. Now it becomes Cp minus Cv equal to R. This is relation between specific gas capacity at constant pressure and constant volume. This is also called Mayer's formula. So in this way, you prove this one using first law of thermodynamics. First you find Cp, Cv, then you get this relation. This topic is also very, very important. It may come generally in 2 or 3 marks question. So please take a screenshot of this one fast. Now next topic is thermodynamic process. What is this? You know there are different thermodynamic variables like pressure, volume and temperature. If these thermodynamic variables changes with time, then you can say that different thermodynamic process occur. So depending on what type of thermodynamic variables changes, what is constant, there are different thermodynamic process. First one is isothermal process. Isothermal, thermal means heat, iso means same. So isothermal process means the process in which this pressure and volume changes but temperature remains constant. Then this process is said to be isothermal process, in which there is no change in temperature. Temperature remains constant. This one is important point. Temperature remains constant in case of isothermal process. Next, adiabatic process. The process in which there is no exchange of heat energy between system and surrounding. There is no exchange of heat. It means delta Q change in heat energy is 0. Next is isochoric process, the process in which volume remains constant. It means there is no change in volume. Volume is constant. Isobaric process, bar is the unit of pressure. So you remember this point like this one, the process in which pressure remains constant. This is called isobaric process. It means there is no change in pressure. Delta P is 0. So there are 4 different thermodynamic process. Isothermal process, there is no change in temperature. Temperature remains constant. Adiabatic process, there is no exchange of heat. Change in heat energy is 0. Isochoric process, in which volume remains constant, there is no change in volume. Change in volume is 0. Isobaric process, in which pressure remains constant, there is no change in pressure. Right? So these are 4 different types of thermodynamic process. Next is, I am going to find work done in an isothermal process, and after this work done in adiabatic process. These 2 are very, very important topic from examination point of view. So work done in an isothermal process. You know what is isothermal process? Those process in which pressure and volume changes but temperature remains constant. So to find the work done in an isothermal process, first consider N moles of an ideal gas contained in this cylinder, and this cylinder has conducting walls and movable piston. So let P be the pressure of this gas. Due to this pressure, it exerts force in the upward direction and it moves the piston upward through a distance dx. So work done by this gas in moving this piston through a distance dx is given by what? Work done, small work done is force into distance. Force is pressure into area and distance through a small distance dx. A is area of cross section of this piston, right? A is area of cross section of this piston, and this area into dx is what? dV, change in volume. Suppose initial volume is V1 and final volume is V2. So change in volume is how much? This one, delta V. This is change in volume or increase in volume. Now we have to find work done in isothermal process. So considering isothermal process, it means temperature remains constant. Suppose initial pressure is P1 and volume is V1. Final pressure is P2 and volume is V2. Now gas expands isothermally. So total amount of work done during this expansion from P1 V1 to P2 V2 is given by work done equal to integration of this work done. So V1 to V2, volume increases from V1 to V2 equal to integration of V1 V2 PdV. Now for an ideal gas, you know PV equal to nRT. So from here P equal to nRT by V, you put this value of P in this equation, right? Equation becomes W equal to V1 by V2. In place of P, you write nRT by V. Then nRT is constant. You take outside, integration of 1 by V is ln V, and upper limit, put upper limit minus lower limit. So ln V2 by V2, and ln is what? 2.303 log. So the work done equal to 2.303 nRT log of V2 by V1. This is work done during isothermal process. This is isothermal expansion. And you know from Boyle's law, ideal gas equation is what? PV equal to, for 1 mole of an ideal gas, RT, N is 1. So temperature remains constant during isothermal process. This PV is constant from Boyle's law. It means P1 V1 equal to P2 V2. From here you get V2 by V1 is what? P1 by P2. This value of V2 by V1 in this equation 2, you get W equal to 2.303 nRT log of P1 by P2. This is work done during isothermal expansion. When the gas expands isothermally, it means at constant temperature, pressure and volume changes, and this is the work done in terms of volume and in terms of pressure. You must remember these two formulas. Work done during isothermal expansion is 2.303 nRT log of V2 by V1 or log of P1 by P2. So hope it's clear to all of you. Please take a screenshot of this one. Then move to the next topic. Now next important topic is work done in an adiabatic process. What is adiabatic process? Those process in which there is no exchange of heat. So to find the work done, first consider a gas contained in this cylinder, right? And this cylinder has conducting walls again, and it is attached with a movable piston. Now let P be the pressure of the gas. Due to this pressure, this piston moves upward, and the work done in moving the piston upward through a distance dx is given by P dV. Now let this gas expands adiabatically from initial state P1, V1, T1 to P2, V2, T2, right? Initial pressure, volume, temperature is P1, V1, T1, and when this gas expands adiabatically, then final state becomes P2, V2 and T2. So total work done by the gas when the gas expands adiabatically from this P1, V1, T1 to P2, V2, T2 is given by W equal to work done of this small integration of this one, integration of this dW, so integration of P dV from V1 to V2. This is equation number 1. Now for adiabatic process, ideal gas equation we use this one, PV gamma constant. In case of this isothermal process, ideal gas equation is PV constant, but in case of adiabatic process we use this equation PV gamma constant, and this gamma is ratio of specific capacity constant pressure to constant volume, it means Cp by Cv. From here PV gamma to the power gamma is constant, or P becomes C by V to the power gamma. Now put this value up in this equation number 1. Equation 1 becomes W equal to C by V to the power gamma dV V1 to V2. C is constant, you take C outside. V to the power in the denominator power gamma, in the numerator it becomes minus gamma. So V to the power minus gamma dV, and you know integration of x to the power n dx is what? X to the power n plus 1 by n plus 1. So here power is minus 1. So V to the power minus gamma plus 1 by minus gamma plus 1. This is again constant, take outside C by minus gamma plus 1. Now putting the upper limits, then lower limits. So upper limit minus lower limit, it becomes W equal to C by minus gamma plus 1 V to the power minus gamma plus 1 minus V1 to the power minus gamma plus 1. Now take C inside this bracket. So it becomes W equal to 1 by minus gamma plus 1 C V2 to the power minus gamma plus 1 minus C V1 minus gamma plus 1. From equation 2, here PV gamma is constant. So P is C by V to the power gamma. It means C V to the power minus gamma is P. Now initial state is P1, V1, T1, final is P2, V2, T2. So initial P1 becomes from here P is C V to the power minus gamma. So P1 is C V1 to the power minus gamma and P2 is C V2 to the power minus gamma. Putting these values in this equation 3, this equation 3 becomes W equal to 1 by minus gamma plus 1. In place of this one you can write V2 to the power minus gamma. Here power is added, so you write in product term V2 to the power minus gamma into V2, V2 to the power 1. In the same way here also V1 to the power minus gamma into V1 to the power 1. So this becomes C V2 to the power minus gamma becomes P2, and here C V1 to the power minus gamma becomes P1. So this equation becomes W equal to C by minus gamma plus 1 P2. This one is P2 V2 minus P1 V1. Now using ideal gas equation PV equal to RT for 1 mole of a gas, this P2 V2 becomes RT2 minus RT1. You take R outside, so it becomes this one. Here minus gamma plus 1. When you write gamma minus 1, so T2 minus T1 becomes T1 minus T2. Here you take R outside, right? So this R, right? This one T2 minus T1, and then when you write gamma minus 1, because gamma is always greater than 1. So you write gamma minus 1, so it becomes T1 minus T2. So work done is R by gamma minus 1 T1 minus T2. I can also write in this form also. C by 1 minus gamma P2 V2 minus P1 V1, or you can write C by 1 minus gamma. So I want to write gamma minus 1, right? Because gamma is always greater than 1. So inside this one you write P1 V1 minus P2 V2. So you can use this equation also, you can use this equation also. This is work done in an adiabatic process. Now from this equation it is clear that work done by the gas is always positive. So work done by the gas is always positive, is greater than 0. And if this work is greater than 0, it means T2 is less than T1. T2 less than T1 means temperature decreases during adiabatic expansion, right? Work done by the gas, temperature decreases. Now work done on the gas, it means work done is less than 0. When this is less than 0, it means T1 is greater than T2. Okay, sorry. This is less than 0 means T2 is greater than T1, and T2 greater than T1 means temperature increases. So work done on the gas during compression, temperature of the system increases, and during expansion, temperature of the system decreases. So you must remember these 2 points also. Hope it's clear to all of you. How you find this one? First you take what is total work done by the gas. Then during adiabatic process, PV gamma is constant. From here you put these values, and after putting these values you get W equal to R by gamma minus 1 T1 minus T2, right? Hope it's clear to all of you. Please take a screenshot of this one fast. Now, next topic is ratio of slopes of adiabatic and isothermal process. You know work done during adiabatic process, you know work done during isothermal process. Now what is the ratio of slopes of this adiabatic and isothermal process? So starting from this isothermal process, you know for isothermal process PV is constant. Differentiating both sides, then P dV plus V dP is 0. From here you get dP by dV equal to minus P by V. This is slope of isothermal curve. dP by dV is equal to minus P by V. Negative slope is there. Now for adiabatic process, you know PV to the power gamma is constant. Again differentiating both sides. So you get dP by dV equal to minus gamma P by V. So slope of this adiabatic curve is minus gamma P by V. When you find the ratio of these two curves, adiabatic by isothermal, you get gamma. So this gamma is always greater than 1. It means slope of this adiabatic curve is always greater than isothermal term. Isothermal process, how much times greater? Gamma times greater. So from this, it is clear that adiabatic has a steeper curve than isothermal curve. This is the PV diagram. So this one is for adiabatic curve and this one is for isothermal process, right? And the curve for adiabatic is little bit steeper than isothermal, so that it has more slope than isothermal. So this is the ratio of slopes of adiabatic and isothermal process. Hope it's clear to all of you. Please take a screenshot of this one. Okay. Now next topic is how first law of thermodynamics applied to different thermodynamic process. There are 4 types of thermodynamic process: isobaric, isochoric, adiabatic and isothermal. How first law of thermodynamics applied to this thermodynamic process? What is first law of thermodynamics? Delta Q is equal to delta U plus delta W. Delta Q is amount of heat supplied to the system. Delta U is the change in internal energy of the system, and delta W is work done by the system. Now first for isothermal process. You know what is isothermal process? Those process in which temperature remains constant. There is no change in temperature. And you know internal energy is a function of temperature. We already discussed these things. So if there is no change in temperature, delta T is 0, it means there is no change in internal energy. Then first law of thermodynamics becomes delta Q equal to delta W. What does it mean? It means heat supplied to the system is entirely used in doing work. No heat is lost. Entire heat supplied to the system is used in doing work. This is for isothermal process. Next is for adiabatic process. What is adiabatic process? There is no exchange of heat. It means delta Q is equal to 0. Then first law of thermodynamics becomes delta W equal to minus delta U. What does it mean? It means if work done by the gas or by the system, work done is positive. In that case, change in internal energy is negative. When work done by the system, it means expansion process. During expansion, work done is positive. So change in internal energy is negative, and change in internal energy means negative means what? There is, because internal energy is a function of temperature. If there is decrease in internal energy, there is decrease in temperature also. So during adiabatic process, work done by the gas, there is decrease in temperature. And when work done on the gas, on the system, work done is negative. It means change in internal energy is positive. It means there is increase in internal energy. So also there is increase in temperature. So when work done on the gas, it means during compression process, there is increase in temperature. Hope it's clear to all of you. So for adiabatic process, first law becomes this one, and then for adiabatic process, first law becomes this one, right? Next one is isochoric process. Isochoric process, there is no change in volume. If there is no change in volume, you know delta W is what? P delta V, work done. If there is no change in volume, there is no work done, change in work done is also 0, then first law of thermodynamics becomes delta Q equal to delta U. What does it mean? It means entire heat is used to change internal energy, right? And last, for isobaric process, there is no change in pressure, change in pressure is 0. It means first law of thermodynamics becomes as it is, delta Q equal to delta U plus delta W. It means the absorbed heat goes partly to increase internal energy and partly to do work. So these are different cases when first law of thermodynamics apply. What happens when it is applied towards thermal process, aromatic process, isobaric process and isochronic process, right? Please take a screenshot of this one. Then we'll move to the last topic of this chapter. Now, last topic of this chapter is second law of thermodynamics. Why this second law comes? There are some limitations in first law of thermodynamics. What are those limitations? Number one, it does not clearly indicate the direction in which transfer of heat takes place. It does not clearly mention about the direction in which direction heat transfer takes place. Number two, it does not clearly indicate the extent to which heat energy is converted into mechanical energy, up to which extent amount of heat is converted into mechanical work. And number three, it does not clearly mention the conditions under which heat energy is converted into mechanical energy. So it does not tell clear about the direction, up to which extent heat energy is converted into mechanical energy and under which conditions. So these are different limitations of first law of thermodynamics, and it was explained in second law of thermodynamics. So there are two statements of second law of thermodynamics. Number one is Kelvin-Planck statement and number two is Clausius statement. Just only a statement is there, no need to study in details. What is this Kelvin-Planck statement? It is impossible to construct a device that will extract heat from a reservoir and convert it into equivalent amount of work. It is impossible to construct an engine that will convert all heat from the reservoir into its equivalent work. Some amount of heat is lost. For example, heat engine. What happens in a heat engine? The working substance operating in a cycle takes heat from the reservoir or source and convert into equivalent work. Some part of heat is lost to a sink which is at the lower temperature. There is no heat engine in this universe which will convert all heat into its equivalent work. This is Kelvin-Planck statement. An example is heat engine. Second one is Clausius statement. What is this? It is impossible to make heat flow from a body at a lower temperature to a body at a higher temperature without doing any external work on the working substance. Example, refrigerator. In a refrigerator, what happens? The working substance can absorb heat from a cold body only if work is done on the system. And work is done by which one? Work is done by the electric compressor. If no work is done on the system, then the compressor will not work. So this is the working of refrigerator. So these two are statements of second law of thermodynamics. Hope it's clear to all of you. Just revise these two statements. And last topic is reversible and irreversible process. What are these processes? Irreversible process are those processes which can be proceeded in reverse direction, which takes place in the reverse direction exactly in the same manner in which it moves. Conditions are, there are two conditions for reversible process to take place. The process must be quasi-static. Quasi-static means the state changes very slowly so that it takes place in reverse direction also. And also no dissipative force such as friction, viscosity acts in this process so that it takes place in the reverse order, right? Next is irreversible process, those processes which cannot be made to proceed in the reverse direction. Just definition is there. What is reversible process? What is irreversible process? After this, there are two topics in your chapter, that is heat engine, refrigerator, but that is related for this year. So no need to study those topics. So this is the last topic of this chapter. Hope it's clear to all of you. Please take a screenshot of this one. So with this, I am going to end my class. Hope you like this one short series of class 11 physics. After this chapter, which chapter you want for one short revision? Please write in the comment box. Right, students? So keep revising and stay tuned with this channel. Okay, students? Thank you.